Chairman Leach, good morning to you. I don't remember the last time four conservative Republicans said that there needs to be some way to address gun violence. You said the other day after the shooting in Allen, we will respond boldly, swiftly, smartly, and that we will do everything possibly to address this head on. What should Texans expect?
Well, Jason, this horrific tragedy, this shooting took place right in the heart of my district, about a mile, no less than a mile from where I live. This is home for us. These are my constituents. These are my neighbors and our friends, and this has really hit our community hard. And we're responding in kind. I'm so grateful for our law enforcement, our brave law enforcement, and our community just rallying around each other in our time of hurt and pain. Here at the Capitol, from a legislative perspective, as I've always been, am open to any and all solutions that, yes, protect our Second Amendment rights, which is very important and we're committed to, but also smartly and with common sense and boldly can work to prevent these tragedies in the future. As I said on the House floor, Jason, the other day, one thing I do know is this is happening way too much, and it does not have to be this way. It doesn't. We shouldn't accept it. We should come together, get around a table, lock arms, and figure out how we can prevent these tragedies from happening in our hometowns in the future.
Mr. Chairman, that's different than what we've heard before from you, from Representative Frederick Frazier, from others who have not said this stuff before. Do you expect there is any support at all, though, from leadership to actually have a conversation about this?
Well, to have a conversation, absolutely. Look, if there's any policymaker at any level of government on any issue that is unwilling to have a conversation, that's unwilling to engage on very difficult issues, that's unwilling to sit around the table and to deliberate on difficult issues, even when we disagree, then we've got a fundamental problem with our political discourse. I think this is one of those issues where we've gotten so used to retreating to our political corners and reading political talking points and becoming so entrenched in what we believe that we're unwilling to even communicate or meet. Now, look, I'm a firm Second Amendment supporter. I am not going to waver from that nor apologize from it. But are there things that we can do and policies that we can advance here at the state capitol that can protect our citizens and prevent this from happening again? Yes. And I'm open to those things and eager to be a part of those discussions.
What are some of those things?
Well, of course, we are committed to supporting our law enforcement and to protecting our Second Amendment rights. I have a God-given right to protect myself and my family. I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not going to retreat from it. That's not a right that's given by government. It's a right that's protected by government. So yes, we're committed to that. But we've got a problem when guns are falling into the hands of people who don't need them, who have verifiable mental health issues, who are breaking our laws. Look, right now, we have a lot of laws on the books across this country, including the state of Texas, that are meant to prevent these tragedies, that are meant to prevent guns from falling in the hands of people who don't need them. And those laws are not being enforced. And so before we consider new laws, I want to make sure that the laws we have are being enforced, and then we can consider what additional holes that we need to fill in the system. All of those things are on the table as we go forward here at the state capitol.
Do you expect anything legislatively to come from the Allen shooting?
I do. I think that you're going to see what you've seen in the past. Unfortunately, this has happened way too many times in the past, but you're going to see not only conversations, but you're going to see real action that's laser targeted, not just to make ourselselves feel good, not just to, quote, do something, but to do the right thing when it comes from a policy perspective. And I've got a bill on the House floor. It was actually passed out of the Senate 31-0. It was the first bill the Senate passed this session that's meant to address mental health issues and making sure our database at the state and federal level are linked, and they're keeping guns out of the hands of people who don't need them. I have that bill in the House. I expect to pass that bill here in the next week to 10 days. That bill will go a long way. It's just one step of many that we should consider here to go a long way to keeping guns out of the hands of people who wish to do harm, who want to break our laws, who want to inflict mass violence. That's one solution of many, and I'm proud to be down here leading the charge on it.
The Allen shooter, as you know, didn't have a record, didn't have any mental health issues. This wouldn't have stopped that person. And you know, I've heard mental health. Everyone's heard mental health for so long. I don't know of any mass shooter that's ever sought mental health help before committing a crime.
Well, what we do know about the shooter in Allen is he did not have a criminal background. He bought the guns, at least to my knowledge. He bought his firearms and his ammunition legally. He actually didn't break any laws, again, to my knowledge, at this point. And so here's what I would ask, and these are the questions that we need when we get around the table and discuss policy solutions. This is the question we need to ask when we look at what happened in Allen. I need someone to show me, and I'm open to this. Show me the law that we could have passed. Show me the law that we could put in place that would have prevented him from being able to buy these guns and being able to do what he did in my hometown. I want to see that law. To this point, no one has been able to show me that. And so that's where we really got to get together. We got to figure out, okay, can we do things to prevent this violence, or should we make sure, and I'm committed to this, making sure that people in all places have the right to protect and defend themselves. But let me say this in closing. Our law enforcement is so wonderful and so brave. I'm so grateful for that Allen police officer that took decisive action and in one shot demobilized and took out the shooter and prevented this catastrophe, which is horrific, from becoming even more horrific. And I'm so grateful for our law enforcement. And at the end of the day, we're going to continue to support them and do everything we can to give them the resources they need to keep us safe.
Mr. Chairman, one of your colleagues, Frederick Frazier, who also represents parts of Collin County there, said to one of our reporters, are we making it too easy for them to get these weapons that we have? Talking about AR-15s, he obviously is a Second Amendment supporter as well. And he said that is something that he'd be willing to talk about, whether the laws on the books now make it too easy for these shooters to get those weapons. What do you think about that?
Well, I agree with my friend Frederick Frazier, who's a Dallas police officer, and there are others like him on both sides of the aisle that Jason, as you just said, are willing to have a conversation about these issues. And I am one of those. I agree completely. Now, the devil's in the details on the legislation, and so much of this comes from the actual policy proposals and the words on the paper, the laws on the books. And so I'm open to a conversation. I don't have any bill in front of me right now that I've seen that could have prevented this, but I'm open to any and all solutions. We have to come together. We have to find solutions. We should not be comfortable or okay with this continuing to happen in our country. It's now hit my backyard. It's hit my hometown. It has rocked me and my family and our district in a way that none of us imagined possible. But here we are, and we have an opportunity, and I would say an obligation, to act and to do the right thing, to do it carefully but boldly. And I think we're going to do that in the coming days.
Mr. Chairman, it's 2 years until the next regular legislative session. Do you think that this is something that can wait until then, or is this something that the governor should call a special session on later this summer?
We've got a little less than 3 weeks left in this legislative session. We're going to use any and all tools in the toolbox to advance legislation that will protect our Second Amendment rights and yet keep our communities safe. We've got time left here to do it, and we're working around the clock to do just that. When it comes to whether a special session should be called on this or any other issue, I know our governor well enough to know that he's going to be careful in doing so. That if and when a special session needs to be called, he'll do so. But make no mistake, this is an emergency for our state. This is an emergency for every state, and we ought to treat it as such. And we ought to do everything we can, using every tool in the toolbox and convening when necessary, when appropriate, and when right, to keep this from happening again.
What could happen in the next 3 weeks before the legislature adjourns?
Well, I hope the bill that I mentioned earlier, the bill that I'm carrying in the House for Senator Joan Huffman, the first bill that passed the Senate unanimously, I'm hopeful that I could get that bill to the floor. It's a good, meaningful bill that needs to pass and needs to get to the governor's desk. So that's one. There's other things that we've still got in front of us, specifically related to school safety, investing in our schools, hardening our schools, getting the resources and personnel in our schools to keep our children safe. There's a number of legislative proposals that I think will make it to the governor's desk to make our communities and our streets and our schools more safe. When it comes to this specific shooting and firearms laws and Second Amendment protections, I don't know yet, but we're working around the clock to consider and ultimately, hopefully, vote on those solutions.
Before we let you go, there's a last minute push we're all watching on sports betting, even casino gambling as well. The Senate has already declared this dead on arrival. Do you expect anything's going to change in that chamber?
Well, the Senate has actually not. Boy, I know we're really changing topics here, Jason, and I'm happy to do so. But yeah, as the author of the sports wagering bill in the House, I'm hopeful that this bill will get a fair shake in the Senate. Lieutenant Governor has actually not closed the door on the sports wagering legislation. This is important legislation that needs to pass. This is activity that's happening now. Over 1 million Texans are betting online on sporting events. They're doing so right now under current law criminally and unconstitutionally. I think we need to smartly pass a law that regulates this, that allows these folks to come out of the shadows, that protects our children, that allows people to get off unsafe, illegal betting accounts and apps. And I hope that the Senate will give this a fair shake, and I'm confident and expectant that they will.
Have you spoken to the lieutenant governor about it?
Not about this specifically, but I've got a good enough relationship with the lieutenant governor to know that if we send something over there that's supported by a majority of Texans, that he's going to give it a fair shake, and I'm hopeful that he will.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thanks, Jason.